welcome to this third series of Encountering God, and thank you for dropping in. In the series of meetings which this little video introduces, we'll be looking again at worship and at how our leadership of worship and our preaching can take account of the ways in which God is encountered, sometimes in unexpected places. We'll start by looking at difficult times in our lives and how we deal with tragedy and suffering. Then think about how, as we meet God through the eyes and ears of others, our understanding is deepened and changed. All really relevant ideas for our life today as Christian disciples, worship leaders and preachers. In case this is your first visit here, a quick recap. We are a team of 11 people from Scotland and Shetland, all involved in different ways in training worship leaders and local preachers. Over the next few months, we'll be offering a series of Zoom meetings focusing on the material presented in the Methodist Connectional Training course, Worship, Leading and Preaching. We do encourage you warmly to visit the course website, where there is far more material than we can cover in these sessions. You can find the course online by going to elearning.methodist.org.uk. Select Worship, Leading and Preaching. You'll probably want it in English, but it is also available in Welsh. If you need help logging into the course, please do email our Learning Network officers at the address shown, or visit the Methodist Church website, methodist.org.uk, and follow these breadcrumbs for churches, local preachers and worship leaders, worship, leading and preaching, introducing worship, leading and preaching, and there you'll find much more helpful information. Once you manage to get into the course, you'll see that there are 8 modules altogether. Following our previous 2 series, which have dipped into modules 2 and 3, this series will be drawing on module 4, Encountering God in Unexpected Places. There are 3 sections to this: Encountering God in Difficult Times, Encountering God through the eyes and ears of others, then, to finish, a focus on reflective practice and continuing development. The dates of the Zoom meetings are on the screen now, along with information about registering for the course. Do come along if you can. The 90-minute sessions are a mixture of worship, presentation and small group discussion, and all are welcome. You don't have to be in training as a preacher or worship leader. We're also glad to see anyone with an interest in worship, as well as those who are already trained and experienced, but looking for a little refresher course. If you can't make Saturday mornings, all is not lost. We record the presentations from the sessions, and these will be available on this channel shortly after the sessions have taken place, so you can catch up there. You may also like to use the video in a small group setting to think more about worship and our life of discipleship. This little introductory video aims to give you the background information and to start us thinking about what the sessions will cover. As we consider encountering God in difficult times, we recognise that there are times in our lives when we find it difficult to offer exuberant praise to God and may feel that church is not a good place to be. Are we sometimes made to feel that there are emotions which are inappropriate in church? We want to hold on to the aspiration that church can be a community of honesty. So, over the next few weeks, before our sessions begin on the 30th of September, you may like to look out for honesty in church, or the lack of it, and bring some thoughts to the first session. Helen will be sharing some thoughts about honesty in church shortly, but we begin with a Bible passage read by Anne, which makes it clear that Paul's life was not always a bundle of laughs. We hear 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 2 to 10.
See, now is the acceptable time. See, now is the day of salvation. We are putting no obstacle in anyone's way, so that no fault may be found with our ministry. But as servants of God, we have commended ourselves in every way, through great endurance, in afflictions, hardships, calamities, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labours, sleepless nights, hunger. By purity, knowledge, patience, kindness, holiness of spirit, genuine love, truthful speech, and the power of God, with the weapons of righteousness for the right hand and for the left, in honour and dishonour, in ill repute and good repute. We are treated as impostors, and yet are true, as unknown, and yet are well known, as dying, and see, we are alive, as punished, and yet not killed, as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing, as poor, yet making many rich, as having nothing, yet possessing everything.
I want our churches to be places where we are honest in worship and with each other. I want us to be able to come and celebrate together as we share the joys, weep together in our sorrows, rage together at the injustices of the world, dream together of what might be. I want it to be okay to cry in church and to dance. I want us to be able to come to God just as we are and to share that honesty with one another as we worship as a community. And yet, as the person often stood at the front, I sometimes wonder how honest I'm able to be in worship. I'm conscious that as leaders of worship, ours is a precious task to create a space in which hopefully others can be honest with God. But I wonder whether that means that we sometimes have to leave something of ourselves behind, or at least deep inside. Because if I bear my honest self before a congregation every week, that makes it more about me and less about God. And yet I'm a human being, I'm part of those worshipping communities. And if I don't model honesty before God, then how can I expect others to open themselves in worship? I'm not sure where the balance lies. I've known the shared joy of congregations as I've announced pregnancies and then later brought my babies along to meet them. But when things have been difficult, I've generally chosen to carry that sorrow quietly. I've been the one to stand and tell a congregation about the death of someone dear to them who died unexpectedly, and to share their shock and their sorrow, but having to step beyond my own emotions in order to hold the space for everybody else. As we lead worship, our honesty can be both gift and distraction, as we walk that line between modelling and making it all about us. I'm sure I don't always get it right, but I hope that we all have the courage to try as we make our churches places where all can be honest with God. There's lots to think about there. Thank you, Helen, for your honesty. It's often said that the book of Psalms in the Bible contains much honest emotion. David, a tutor in Shetland, is going to explore that a little now, and he'll be taking us deeper into the Psalms in the first session on the 30th of September, so don't miss that. Then we move to Inverness, where Liz will introduce what's called the Project Brief, an exercise based on the material in the course, which you might like to try.
The Book of Psalms contains some of the most beloved passages of Scripture, alongside some of the most uncomfortable reading in the Bible. Not unusually, it may be one psalm that contains both. As songs, we may consider the Psalms as we consider hymns in a service of worship. Why sing a hymn? For the congregation to, as one, declare what is doctrinally correct and thus step into and learn what good doctrine is. Maybe you think it's more that for the congregation to be creative in exploring new language and images of God, and thus to step into the unknown and possibilities of creativity. To give voice to our praise? To give voice to what we might otherwise choose to leave unsaid? to embellish and enrich the rituals and practices of church with familiar sensory expression, to use creativity to open space for an encounter with God, to encounter the unfamiliar. These and many more reasons, not that these are rigid, distinct categories, but the music and song do not serve a single purpose, which is true of the Psalms. Although compared with Christian God song of the last few centuries, many people, myself included, find the Psalms give voice to a raw honesty, a lack of reserve, and the use of song to manage and handle and explore challenging emotions, which can be equally enlightening, inspirational, as well as unsettling. In joy and in sorrow, in praise and lament, the authors of the Psalms wear their hearts on their sleeves a lot more than comes naturally to me. Their open honesty is a gift to us, as well as a challenge. Show favour to me, Lord, for my strength fails. I am wearied with moaning. All night long my pillow is wet with tears. Arise, Lord, in your anger. My God, who ordered justice to be done, awake. Even were I to walk through a valley of deepest darkness, I should fear no harm, for you are with me. I have eaten ashes for bread, and mingled tears with my drink. Remember, Lord, when they shouted, "Down with Jerusalem!" O Babylon, Babylon the destroyer, happy is the one who repays you for what you did to us. Happy is the one who seizes your babes and smashes them against a rock. Which of those sit well with you, and which do not? Those are some honest feelings, and they are expressed, have been handed down for us, to give us words for when the reserved among us struggle to express ourselves, to give all of us permission to weep, to be confident, to rail and scream, to demand justice and to be angry at injustice. And then the last, to turn what seems to be a desire for vengeance into prayer, and not act on it, but acknowledge that those feelings are nevertheless real. You may have preferred psalms for different moods and occasions, but in these books we have a rich, raw honesty that is a gift for us to open up in its fullness.
Hi, my name's Liz and I'm one of the tutors on the Worship Leading and Preaching course. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes today to talk about the project brief. Each of the module sections has a project brief, which for those undertaking the course as part of their training to be a worship leader or local preacher have to be completed. However, they offer all of us, whether experienced or new to worship leading and preaching, an opportunity to develop our skills and perhaps to try something new or a little bit different. This project brief picks up on the theme of the module of how we deal in worship with the daily realities of pain, grief and suffering. So not particularly easy topics to reflect in worship. And so we're invited to prepare an item for use in worship that reflects our understanding of how pain and grief, hope and consolation can be expressed in the life of the Christian community. The item could be an original song or poem, a reflection on someone else's song or poem, a short drama or a piece of art in whatever medium that you prefer. Could be some prayer stations, a sermon or other response to scripture, or any other appropriate media of your choice. The sky's the limit. There really are no limits on this, and you can be as creative as you want to be. There is a requirement, though, to include in the project or the reflection, or indeed in both, reference to one or more of the scriptures of lament or hope referred to in the material, and one or more of the theologians who are referenced in the module reader. So then, why not take a look at the project brief in more detail and consider giving it a go? Thank you. Most of what we've introduced here today will be picked up again in the first 2 Zoom sessions focusing on encountering God in difficult times. Then we'll move on with sessions 3 and 4 to the second section of Module 4, encountering God through the eyes and ears of others. The aims of 4.2 are all around seeing the bigger picture. How does the Methodist Church in Britain fit into a larger ecumenical context and into a context of world Methodism? How does it relate to other faiths? These questions will lead us to consider difference and diversity both within Methodism and out with it. How do other people encounter God, and what can we learn from that? All this will, in turn, help us to see what are the distinctive charisms of the Methodist Church. The final session of this series will focus on reflective practice and continuing development. That will be an opportunity for each of us to think about our own involvement in and contribution to the worshipping life of the Church, and to open ourselves afresh to the call of God. What are our own particular gifts and needs, and how might they be offered and met? Thank you for watching this video, and do think about coming along to the series. You will be most welcome. It helps if you register so that we can send you the links and keep in touch. The dates of the sessions will be back on the screen shortly, along with a registration link. I hope to see you on the 30th of September. Perhaps, for you, now is the acceptable time.